Welcome to another class of AWS course. In this class, I'm going to show you and tell you everything you need to know briefly about cloud computing. Well, this is not going to be a class where it is going to be intertwined with AWS, but I'm going to show you everything you need to know about the basics of cloud computing. The definition of cloud computing is the delivery of various services over the internet, including storage, computing, power, databases, networking, software, analytics, and intelligence. Instead of owning and maintaining physical data centers or servers, businesses can access these resources on demand from a cloud provider. So, let's get into the key characteristics of cloud computing. On-demand self-service. Users can provision computing capabilities as needed automatically without requiring human interaction with the service providers. Well, obviously, from here, you can see that these type of services are on demand and also self-serviced. So it means that you don't have to go anywhere, and also you don't have to stay in line to get those services, because these services are used every day, every single second in this world. The example of using this is that spinning up a virtual machine in minutes through a web interface, which actually saves up a lot of time, a lot of labor, and also a lot of strategy. Then we have is broad network access. Services are accessible over the internet and can be used through standard devices such as laptops, mobile phones, and also tablets. The example of broad network access is that accessing cloud storage from any device with an internet connection. Let's move on to the next one, where we have is resource pooling, which is one of the most important thing when you have to get inside a specific amount of data. Cloud provider pool with their resources to serve multiple customers using a multiple or multi-tenant model with different physical and virtual resources dynamically assigned and also reassigned according to the demand. So it's going to depend on what the person is searching for and what the person is actually looking for. The example of this is that multiple customers using the same physical servers but isolated through virtualization. Even if you want to get the same service and let's say another person, or even let's say a lot of person is trying to get the same service, well, you don't have to wait, and neither is it going to be delayed, because it's going to help you to create a new virtual environment for you to use that service just on your own when you are using the internet and also your own device. So it just basically creates up an environment for you so that you can get the full service through that server. Then we have is rapid elasticity. Resources can be elastically provisioned and also released to scale rapidly outward and inward commensurate with demand. The example of this is that you can automatically, by adding more servers instances during high traffic periods and scaling down during traffic or low traffic. So you have to keep that thing in mind. Due to it, or due to the service having the rapid elasticity, you can also get access anytime, even if there is high traffic period and even there is low traffic period. But sometimes you might like face a couple of errors, or maybe sometimes face like something with an error saying request timed out. So you have to keep that thing in mind and use it when there is low traffic so that you get the best service. Okay. Then we have is measured service. First off, we have is cloud system, which automatically controls and optimizes resources used by leveraging a metering capability at some level of abstraction appropriate to the type of service. Example, let's say storage, processing, and bandwidth. So why are these examples termed in this measured services? Well, storage, processing, and also bandwidth comes along and plays in the same role. Without bandwidth, you cannot process. Without the process and without the bandwidth, you cannot use the storage. So make sure that your bandwidth and the processing and the storage is of the best quality and is of the best notch. And obviously, cloud system or the AWS cloud system basically gives you the best service out of any other ones. The example of this is that paying for cloud storages based on the amount of data stored and the duration of that specific storage. So you are going to be buying a specific storage for your service and as a virtual environment or as a virtual storage on the cloud or on the DNS. What are the types of cloud computing? Let's get into that. Infrastructure as a service, which is known as IaaS. It provides virtualized computing resources over the internet. So just like I said, that it's going to create a virtualized computing resource, and it's also going to create a virtual environment for you so that you can work on your own, fully protected. The example of this is that Amazon, EC2, Google Compute Engine, and a couple of them. The use cases of IaaS is that it is used for hosting websites, running enterprise applications. Then we have its platform as a service, which is known as PaaS. It provides a platform allowing customers to develop, run, and manage applications without dealing with the underlying infrastructure. So even if you don't have the team, or even if you don't have a lot of people to work on your platform, you can easily use PaaS, which is platform as a service, so that you don't have to deal with the underlying infrastructure. Then we have is example. The example of PaaS are Google App Engine, Microsoft Azure App Services. The use cases of PaaS is for developing and deploying web applications online so that other people can get access to them and so that you can also create your own system or your own server. Then we have is software as a service, which is SaaS. It delivers software applications over the internet on a subscription basis. So obviously you have seen a lot of softwares that has a lot of subscription. In case Microsoft, Office Suite, then we also have like Adobe. Then we also have a couple of other, maybe let's say Netflix. Then we also have Spotify. Those are the type of SaaS. The example of them are Google Workspace, Microsoft Office 365, and just like I said, so on. The use case of SaaS is for email, customer relationship management, which is also known as CRM in short, which is also one of the mostly used service right now. Okay. Then we have is function as a service, which is also known as FaaS, which provides a platform for running code in response to events without provisioning or managing the servers. Well, a lot of people who are trying to get into the service type of businesses or maybe even trying to get in so that they get best performance or even trying to help. So a couple of people don't know how to run codes in these platforms. So in these cases, FaaS comes in handy for events without any provisioning or any managing servers. The example of these FaaS are AWS Lambda, Azure Functions, and a lot more. The use cases of AaaS or FaaS is running microservers, real-time data processing, which is also similar to MySQL and also PHP. The deployment of them are public cloud. Services are delivered over the public internet and also shared across multiple organizations. Well, that is the public cloud. The example of a public cloud is the AWS, Microsoft Azure, Google Cloud Platform. The use cases of public cloud are scalable resources for dynamic workloads, general purpose computing. Well, most of the software which you see right now may be even running on your PC most of them are of the public cloud. But when you're using a private cloud, that is a whole different thing. So let's move on and learn a bit about what the private cloud is. So cloud infrastructure is dedicated to a single organization and not shared with others. So this is more private and also has a lot more privacy measurements. The example of private cloud is private data centers or hosted private clouds, maybe even a server of any corporation, including or having all of its data and servers, maybe even having the data of any employee, and those are the example. The use case of having a private cloud is highly regulated industries, customized infrastructure needs. Then let's move on to our next clouds, the hybrid cloud, which combines public and also private clouds at the same time, allowing data and also application to be shared between them. The example of having a hybrid cloud is using public cloud for non-sensitive workloads while keeping sensitive data in a private cloud or in a private server. The use cases of private cloud is disaster recovery, load balancing between clouds, and it is also used by the government of most countries. Then we have is multi-cloud. The use of multiple cloud services from different providers is called a multi-cloud. The example of a multi-cloud is using AWS for IaaS, Google Cloud for PaaS, and Office 365 for SaaS. The use cases of multi-cloud is for avoiding vendor lock-in, optimizing cost, and also its performance. So hope you understood everything about this cloud or everything about this class on AWS and also cloud computing and also a couple of brief about couple of cloud services. If you have any confusion or any question about any part of this lesson, feel free to ask me anytime. I'm always there to help you out. So without any further ado, let's move on to our next class of AWS.